All right. Ecclesiastes 10 tonight. Ecclesiastes 10, and we'll be looking at verses 1 through 7. Ecclesiastes 10, 1 through 7. Dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. Even when the fool walks on the road, he lacks sense, and he says to everyone that he is a fool. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as it were an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. I have seen slaves on horses and princes walking on the ground like slaves. I want you to see first in verse 1 that a little bad can ruin the lot. I remember a few years back, I was eating one of my favorite things to eat. It's blueberry pancakes. And I'd had one blueberry pancake, and I decided to have another blueberry pancake. And Martha had made them, and they were fresh blueberries that had been picked and washed and ready to go, washed there in the bucket, and the water all poured out and everything, and then sprinkled in there and mixed in and ate. And as I was eating my second one, I bit into a blueberry, but it wasn't a blueberry. It was a beetle. Apparently that had been there in the, either in the blueberries or in the mix or whatever. I don't know how it got there. I just know there was a beetle and I bit right into it. Now, everything else in that was good. Everything else on that plate was good, and including all the rest of those pancakes. Guess how many more I ate? I didn't eat any more, right? It had ruined it for me right then. It's the same way you ever had a bushel of apples and there'd be one rotten apple in the bottom and it kind of spreads and you could see it starting to spread. You let it spread long enough, that rot will just kind of go through the whole bushel of apples. And you do that with all kinds of fruits and vegetables. As soon as one of them starts to go bad, it almost seems like it spreads. Well, here he says, dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench. If you take something that smells real good and you put something dead in it, it smells bad. We kept walking by in the office a couple weeks ago. Every time we'd walk into the kitchen, we'd say, it smells like something dead in here. It didn't matter if somebody was heating up food that they had made last night and it smelled good. As soon as it started, the mixture of the smell started going, it smelled horrible again. We looked everywhere, couldn't see, thought maybe something bad was in the trash can, pulled all that out, looked, washed, nothing. And finally I said, it smells like there is a dead mouse in here. And we kept on and on and on looking and didn't see anything. And I finally took the refrigerator and pulled it back. And I said, here, make sure this refrigerator doesn't tip over. And I laid it on somebody and I got under there with a flashlight. And right there between the drip pan and something else is like a mouse that got stuck and is dead. And that's what was smelling so bad in there. Right? It didn't matter what good you put in, it was going to stink in there. It was going to stink, and you couldn't get rid of it. You couldn't make anything smell good. It stunk. Well, it's the same way with wisdom and folly, right? You could be a really wise person. You could do a lot of really good things. But what's the one thing everybody will always remember? The foolish thing you did, the bad thing you did. Think about preachers. There's been preachers that have done a lot, and they go down one sinful path. And what is it that everybody remembers for? Right? When I say Jimmy Swaggart, y'all don't think about how beautiful he played the piano. And y'all don't think about him having the TV show and all these people watching. It's not the first thing that came to your mind. When I said Jimmy Swaggart, first thing came to your mind was Jimmy Swaggart and a prostitute at a hotel and then him getting up and crying and asking for forgiveness for it. And that's what most people think. When you talk about Jimmy Swaggart, that's what they think about, right? And that's the way it goes. Not that maybe not Jimmy Swaggart's not the best example, but it's an example for sure. A little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. You only got one reputation, and you can ruin it real quick with a little bit of folly. Just like that stink of death will spread right through, in the same way, a little bit of folly will outweigh the wisdom and the honor. So a little bad can ruin the lot. In verses 2 and 3, your wisdom leads your heart. It says, a wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. It's all I can do to not make a political joke out of that, that the wise man goes to the right and the foolish man goes to the left. But what he's talking about here is he's letting you know that your wisdom leads your heart. The path you take in life is based off of the wisdom that you have, because that's what informs our decisions. If you're a person with little wisdom and you're a fool, then you're going to most likely take the foolish path. But if you're a wise man and a wise woman and you have trusted in the Lord and you have trusted in His wisdom, and then you get to that decision point, you're going to probably make the right decision and you're going to go the right way. When a fool walks down the road, it says he lacks sense. He says to everyone that's a fool. It doesn't take long for people to figure out whether somebody's a fool or not, because they make the wrong decisions over and over and over. They do the wrong thing over and over and over again. You remember the old myth of Midas? Remember the old myth of Midas? Everything that Midas touched, it turned to gold. All right? And I think there's the fool, on the other hand, everything they touch turns to lead. All right? Just not worth anything. They could touch a gold coin and it would turn to lead in their hand. And everybody knows it doesn't take long for everybody to figure it out. It would just be like if the fool walked down the street and said, hey, everybody, I want to let you know I'm a fool. I'm a fool. I'm going to do the wrong thing. Whatever situation is put in front of me, you can count on me to go the wrong way. And that's the way it is with a fool. And so we want to have that wisdom so that we go the right way, so that we don't lack sense, so that we can move forward in a right way, in a way that glorifies God. In verse 4, we see that we need to keep calm and carry on. Keep calm and carry on. Y'all remember the signs that were real popular for a while that everybody always, keep calm and carry on. Stay calm and carry on. I can't remember the exact words of it, but I remember the end of it was carry on. Here it says, if the anger of the ruler rises against you, don't leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. One of the first things that we want to do when something doesn't go our way, or when it seems like someone is angry at us, or when it seems like somebody's attacking us, the last thing we do is think. The first thing we do is do. We don't remain calm. We get all up in arms and we're ready to fight right off the bat. A little deliberation goes a long way for us to have better lives. For us to have better lives when it comes to how we deal with other people. He says, if the ruler rises up against you, stay calm. Stay calm. You look like you deserve it when you get angry and you get mad. Or if you flail around, or if you scream, or if you cry, or whatever. The first thing we need to do is just stop. And remember that the answer's out there. The right answer's out there. Rather than crying out in a foolish way, we can have some calmness about what we do. It's hard to take somebody seriously when they're hysterical. When they're so worked up about it. It's hard to take them seriously. When the kids come in sometimes, and they're just, it's, and you would think, what in the world happened? There's times that I thought that they must be getting ready to die, the way that I hear them crying and carrying on. And you get in there and say, what's the matter? He took my toy, right? And that's what it was about. And it was just, it's so much. And I can't help but laugh at that point. Yeah, it was wrong for somebody else to take your toy, but I can't help but laugh that you are having this reaction to it. And we don't really grow out of that. We don't really grow out of that. That's the first thing we want to do is take offense, and we want to get upset. We say, I don't get mad, I get even, and we're ready to push forward and try to make things right on our own. But what we need to do is sometimes just let things work out. I've found out sometimes people will call me or they'll say, I need something done, and I need something done right now. And just some kind of discernment or some type of, maybe it's wisdom. And I'll say, you know what, I'm going to give this a day. And I give it a day, and then everything works out. And sometimes that's what we have to just do. Just step back a little bit, stay calm, and see how the Lord can work. Finally, in verses 5 and 7, high or low isn't the measure of a person. He says, there's an evil I've seen under the sun. It was an error proceeding from the ruler. He says there's folly in high places. And we've seen that before. We've seen people that were set up in high places, and they've acted foolish. We've seen it many, many times over our lifetimes. We've seen it over history. If we look, we can go way on back. We can go back to, we'll just pick on Nebuchadnezzar for a minute. What did he do? He got up there and he looked out at Babylon, and what did he say? He said something really foolish, didn't he? He started thinking about how good he was and how great he was and how everything he had done is all him. And what ended up happening to him? He ended up out in the field eating grass with the cows. All right? And this was the greatest king on earth at the time, the most powerful king on earth at the time. There has been folly in high places, and there's been the rich set in the low place. Sometimes things seem different. They seem turned around. It says, I've seen slaves on horses and princes walking on the ground like slaves. Back then, slaves and being at the low end of the social totem pole, they wouldn't have been allowed to ride a horse just to ride to go somewhere. Right? They would have to walk if they were doing that. And then you wouldn't usually see a prince walking. You'd see him riding. But he says, I've seen these things. I've seen these things. Things aren't always what they seem. Things aren't always what they seem. Remember hearing about a guy one time. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if it's just a story somebody made up like a parable. But of a man that came in to a church, and he was shabbily dressed, and everybody just kind of looked at him. He was a little dirty and maybe smelled a little bit, and everybody just kind of looked at him and didn't pay him much mind. And so after the service was over, nobody really wanted to shake his hand. Nobody really wanted to talk to him, and he left and went to another church the next Sunday, and the same thing happened again. And everybody just kind of looked at him, didn't think anything. And the next Sunday he went to another church, and the people there were very friendly. And they were nice to him, and they welcomed him in just like he was one of their own. And after the service, he was talking to the pastor, and the pastor was being nice to him and accepting him as a human being. And as they talked, he asked the pastor what was the biggest need that the church had, and the pastor told him something with their building that wasn't working, that they could never afford on their own as a small church. And the man asked how much it was going to be, and then 2 days later, the church got a check in the mail from the man to pay for what it was, because he actually was a very wealthy man that just wanted to see what had happened. And so sometimes things are upside down like that, right? Sometimes things are upside down. What we might see might not always be what is actually going on. You'll see that if you have your eyes out for it. So we remember that high or low isn't always the measure of a person. So a little bad ruins the lot, so keep the bad out. Let your wisdom lead your heart, and that way you'll make the right decisions. Keep calm and carry on. And remember that sitting high or sitting low isn't the measure of a person. Any comments or questions on that?